this is a typical paper number 2 that you are about to turn in. And paper number 2 does require for the style to be informative, very different from expressive, because the informative style is going to use facts and it's not going to be written in a subjective voice that uses I or me or we. So the organization for this paper is attempting to describe. So as I complete this paper, I should have a fairly accurate view of the landscape or the object that you are describing. Let's go over 3 of the basic requirements of the paper. First of all, it is formatted using the MLA formatting explained in the module, with your information on the left and your running heads. It also includes a title, Lady Liberty. And as I read the first paragraph, New York City is filled with millions of people, thousands of restaurants, and hundreds of activities and sites for tourists to experience. Yet out of these many choices, visitors to the city continue to choose Lady Liberty as one of their top destinations to see and experience. I hear fluent writing, and I see that the style is on. It's not using I or me or we. This will lead to your thesis, and your thesis is what's going to set up the order, the aspects, the parts that will be discussed, because you obviously cannot discuss every single thing about your subject. So that is called the scope of your thesis. Whatever limits whatever you're going to write about is called the scope of your thesis. So let's check this thesis out. The Statue of Liberty is one of the main attractions of New York City because of its views. That's the first part. History, that's the second part. And fascinating construction. All right, so the paper will now have to have a section on each of these. So this is the section on views. I recommend that in the topic sentence of your paragraph that you mention the first part of your thesis, and so on and so on. So this paper seems to be doing fairly well. As you can see, it's covering all of the aspects that the scope of the thesis promised. The next important thing is the MLA correct? First thing is, does it have 2 sources? Yes, it does. Does it say works cited centered on the top? Yes, it does. Right? Here, we are inverting the name of the authors, Benjamin Levine, right? And Isabel Story. There's an error here, right? When you have more than one author, the second author is not inverted. So let's see if we can correct that. This would be Isabel Story. Right, so this would be by the first name, Isabel Story. All right, so that's done. This is a learning network. It's going to be our guiding title from the New York Times. Okay. Now, this keeps changing. Now we are told that the new MLA does not require for you to write web here. But you can still include the address. And if you go to your MLA worksheet, you see how to do a web entry. So that's going to be done a little bit differently. And when you send the paper, I could probably guide you a little bit more. The next thing that you need to know is the MLA parenthetical documentation. There are rules that you are supposed to read, but a good quote usually has a signal phrase that is the introduction to the quote. According to the statue historian Barry Moreno, right? So we already have the name of the author there. And here is a direct quote. Where does that come from? The Learning Network. Now this here must connect to the extreme left part of your works cited page. So there it is. See, Learning Network. If anything else were in the parenthetical documentation, such as the New York Times or anything else that's not the Learning Network, you would have to revise it. So think about that. Think about that simple rule. If it's in here, it must be at the left margin of your works cited page. Let's check another one. Here's another quote that comes from Levine and Story. There should be a Levine. There it is. There's a Levine right there. These are just basic rules that you need to follow. Edit your writing. Make sure that it is informative. Look up the latest guidelines on doing MLA, and you should have a fairly accurate first draft. Thank you.